Welcome to another Zoom. I have one of my close friends. I really mean this. We have interviewed on his book. I think this is probably past 100, something like that. He's the most prolific writer I have ever met in my life. And he's with us today, Pat Williams, the guy that made Orlando Magic come to Orlando. He was the guy with the passion. We need a basketball team. And now they're going to have a baseball team. I'm just predicting that in the future. Pat, good to have you.
Herman, I'm so happy to see you. And I always look forward to our times together, whether in person or by Zoom. But
this is the first Zoom we've done.
I know it. Isn't that amazing?
With you, I mean. The reason of COVID has created this whole production direction. And I was telling my director, Rick, I said, the reason I think I like Zoom, first of all, most of the people that come, they have to fly in, stay in a motel, make it to the studio. And sometimes, Pat, by the time they get to the studio, they're so frustrated, kind of worn out from the flight. And by the time we get into an interview, I can tell there's some stress going on. Most of the Zooms I've done are like in your office there. Most of them are in their home or in an area of office or whatever. And it's like being home. So their stress level seems to be much less. So it's kind of neat.
Well, let's hear it for Zoom. But I still enjoy in-person stuff, Herman. Nevertheless, we have a new book out. It matches the color of your glasses.
Yes.
Very patriotic.
I wear these glasses, Pat. Patriotic. See the red, white, and blue?
Oh, I love it. Ah, good for you.
And with your Betsy Ross on the front, with the 13 stars. This is one I think. Now, this is just my opinion. It's even have gold inside. I think this is one of your classiest covers.
Well, we felt that way. It really, I think, captures the spirit of the book. And the book really, Herman, is pretty a simple theme. How did we win that war? What were the reasons we even have a country today? And who were the key people? And what did they do as leaders back in those days to really allow us to break off and start our own country? So we take 25 of these men and women, do a chapter on each one, teaching, viewing them through the narrow lens of leadership. And then at the end of each chapter, we give leadership lessons that we can take from that particular person. So it's been a fascinating project.
You have been such a icon of leadership through the years. I mean, take us to I'm telling you what happened with me this AM, early this morning. I woke up 3 a.m. This actually happened. I started thinking about Pat Williams.
Oh boy.
and which is amazing, because I started thinking, okay, his parents, everything he's done, he's been on the A list. In other words, when you entered high school, great in athletics. When you entered college, you were this tall, strapping, muscular guy. All through college, you were the A athlete. Everything you've done is on that A list, and this is what's going through my mind at 3 a.m. and I'm taking your life, because I've read so many books about you. I'm taking your life from birth, parents, school, college, and then into your coaching. But I know all of that. Give us a little perspective on how your life began.
Well, Herman, it began in Wilmington, Delaware. My dad was a high school coach, high school history teacher. My mother was a homemaker and a rabid American patriot.
Wow.
So as a youngster in the greater Philadelphia area, we would go to Philadelphia and we would see those historical sites. I remember going to Valley Forge as a kid.
Sure.
So American history, and my dad taught it as well. So I grew up in that environment of having a great respect and a great admiration for these men and women who led the way, and it was living history for me. So I've always had a great interest, but Herman, in the last, oh, I don't know, probably the last 30 years, I have developed this passionate interest in leadership. You see, everything rises and falls on leadership. It always has, it always will. It'll always be a topic of great interest in this country. And the study of leaders is become really a passion of mine over the last 30 years.
You say leadership is forged in crisis.
Well, I think that's when we really find out who the great leaders are. When you study the Revolutionary War period and then you go to the Civil War period, World War II, these were primarily men who stepped up in the moment of crisis and led the way for us. And in the Revolutionary War period, of course, we know George Washington and we know John Adams and Thomas Jefferson. But in this book, you're going to meet General Henry Knox, a 21-year-old bookseller in Boston who played a key role. You're going to meet 19-year-old Lafayette, who came over from France, sight unseen, wanting to hook up with George Washington and become part of this whole war scene, and he did that. He was just a kid. He arrived here at age 19.
Wow.
And then you're going to meet a very young Alexander Hamilton, who grew up on the island of Nevis in the Caribbean, and somehow ends up over here. That was a miraculous story. And plays a key role in the war. So these people came from all over the place. Baron von Steuben from Germany, who led the way in teaching and instructing these soldiers at Valley Forge how to march and how to form a unit and how to fire a weapon. Just the basics of warfare. He was a key person. So we do a chapter on each one of these people.
And you have females.
We have females and a number of women who played a key role. We've got an African American, Crispus Attucks, who was also a significant part of this.
You even have a Quaker.
We have a Quaker, Nathaniel Greene. Let me tell you about Nathaniel Greene, the fighting Quaker from Rhode Island.
Which is unusual because they normally were not fighters.
They would pass, but he did not. And it's a good thing he didn't, because Washington had great confidence in him, great trust in him. And Greene came into his own when Great Britain moved the battle scene into the southern part of the 13 colonies, and they began to have successes there. But Nathaniel Greene took our troops and had a great success just running General Cornwallis all over the place. And Nathaniel Greene is worthy of our admiration. He's one of my favorites in this book.
Now, when you put this together, how do you select the individuals that you have in the book? Because it would be a great high school book for children, for young people, for college kids, because this kind of history, the revisionists are trying to take it away from us.
Yes, and we do a piece there on the 1619 project, which rose its head during our writing process here. But Herman, I want young people, particularly, to be conversant about the history of our country.
Amen.
And I'm fearful that a large percentage of them really are not knowledgeable about. So I joined you when you said, I hope the young people of our country will read this book. It's something they can easily follow, and they're going to have a very good handle on how we won the war and who were the key people. I think at this point I should say a word about George Washington, the father of our country.
That's the last chapter.
Yes, that's right. We saved him till last. and deservedly so.
Yeah.
Washington was not a perfect man. He was not a perfect leader. But at that time in history, he was the right man. He had a military background. He had a presence about him. He was a big guy back in those days. He was about 6'2". The average height was about 5'7". And Washington, he also had a uniform, a military uniform. Nobody else did.
Wow.
So when he came to be interviewed, he looked like a soldier, and he was also from Virginia, which helped because most of the action was up in the Boston area. And so Washington was appointed to that job, and there he was for the better part of 8 years. And then the thing that really just touches me about Washington, in those 8 years, Herman, he never left the troops. 8 years, round the clock, there he was, visible and available, which is a key piece of being a great leader.
Amen.
And he went through the hardships of the soldiers. He didn't ask for any privileges. He didn't take a paycheck. All he asked was, at the end of the war, reimburse my expenses.
Wow.
And
Didn't he refuse the title of king? They loved his leadership so much they wanted him to be established from then on.
Well, that's what truly is the remarkable piece about George Washington. At the end of the war, he could have been anything. He could have been emperor. He could have been king. He could have called himself anything. He was in that position. But Herman, you know what he did? He said, "Nah, I don't need any of that." He went home. He went back to his farm
Nice.
in Northern Virginia, where his heart really was. In his heart of hearts, he was a farmer. I think that's what he enjoyed the most.
Yeah.
But at the end of the war, he said, "Nope." And King George III, when he heard that, said, "If Washington does that, he will be the greatest man in the world." Well, it was an earmark of Washington's humility. He was a humble giant. But soon enough, the government started floundering this new country. They didn't know quite what to do. So they came to Washington and said, "General, we need you back. We need you to run this country."
Yeah.
And he reluctantly left the farm for 8 years. 4 was enough, but they begged him to stay on for 4 more. And really, Herman, that's where we've gotten this concept of 2 4-year terms, and then you move on.
Isn't it interesting to you that the politicians today, what we have now, jockeying for one political party forever? I mean, you can see it happening. And you have to be an egomaniac when you look at what's happening today compared to what you've written in this book about former leaders. There's no comparison.
Well, Herman, I think overall there were several common threads. All of these men and women were visionaries. They envisioned a new nation, independent of Great Britain's rule. That's what kept them going. Secondly, they knew that God was in control, and that the God was going to be the key person to lead them. And
We were actually a republic.
yes, and these people kept constant. Now their terminology was a little bit different, but they truly believed that there was a heavenly Father who was guiding them through all of it. They had a mission from the Lord.
Yeah.
That kept them going. But through it all, and Herman, they squabbled. We tend to think that they were all perfect gentlemen. They fought and squabbled, and they had their differences. They just like any other period of time. And but isn't it remarkable in that little window? Think about it. George Washington, John Adams, Thomas Jefferson, James Madison, James Monroe, Alexander Hamilton. I mean, what a list of remarkable people that all came along at the same time. That was another God thing. And they each played a key role. You know, these founding fathers, they were an amazing group of men.
Why did you choose Samuel Adams to begin?
He was a rabble rouser. And at the beginning of the war in Boston, Samuel Adams was an active guy. He was well known in the community, and he was a rabble rouser, and he wanted this whole thing to take place, and he was not afraid to voice his opinion.
You call him the father of the revolution.
Because he very early on saw what this could be, and he was not afraid to express his opinions, and he had a following. Samuel Adams today is considered as a peer,
Yeah,
but
that's
but
right.
back in the day, Sam Adams, he was viewed with respect. He was viewed as a fearless guy. He was not reluctant to express his opinions.
Was he a tax collector?
In that back in the day, yeah, that was his role. And of course, one of his cousins was John Adams, who was a lawyer, and he played a role in the very early part. And then, of course, he became George Washington's first vice president, and then later became our second president, John Adams. And one of the things that we should be grateful for, because a lot of these founding fathers didn't keep their correspondence. For example, Martha Washington burned all of the correspondence between her and the general. Oh, there are only a couple of letters that survived. On the other hand, Abigail Adams was a writer, and so was John. And fortunately, all of their correspondence has remained with us. And thus because of those two, we have a great insight into that whole period that wouldn't have been there if they hadn't been such. And of course, Herman, the only way they could correspond back then was by letter. It took a couple of weeks for a letter to go from Richmond, Virginia to New York City. And so the correspondence was all by letter. I'm worried about our future, Herman, because we don't write letters anymore.
Yes, that's right.
We send little emails, and I'm wondering 100 years from now, what kind of research are the historians going to do? Because letters over the years have played such an important part of what the historians write.
How many children do you have? Biological, and then you adopted, right?
Well, we did. We have 19 children, Herman. We adopted 14 of those kids from 4 foreign countries. We have 5 birth kids, and they are now all adults.
Amazing.
They range from 37 to 48, and we have 19 grandkids, and we're certainly enjoying them immensely. And so we got quite a tribe.
What inside of you desired to have children outside of your biological children?
Well, it wasn't me. It was my wife, and she was relentless for 10 years about having children that didn't look like us. She remembered as a kid, her dolls all had almond eyes. She wanted it. She wanted Asian children, and for 10 years, I couldn't fathom it. Didn't even encourage it. It became a very major part of the struggle in our home, and so I had to step up and take the lead, and I did, and discovered that we could get children from South Korea.
Wow.
That's not the case today.
No.
But in 1983, in September, 2 little girls, 2 and 3 years old, arrived from South Korea, right into our family. They're now 40 and 41.
My
Those
goodness.
have presented us with 6 South Korean grandchildren. And so it's quite a story, Herman.
You You have in chapter 9 Jonathan Trumbull, the prophet of the revolution. What?
Go ahead.
Yes. Uh, what about him?
Well, he was a man who predicted things that would be coming up in the future. He was a good man. He was solid, and he generated great respect. When he spoke, people listened.
Did these individuals you have in the book, did they have faith? Did they have a particular denomination? What was their background? Religious?
Herman, they all had different backgrounds, and they didn't talk. When you look today and read back, they didn't talk specifically about Jesus Christ and the shed blood. You didn't hear that talk. But they all, by and large, they knew that there was a God in heaven, and He was guiding and directing them. They all made references at different times. Deism was a big deal back then,
Correct.
where their philosophy was that yes, there was a God. He set this whole thing in motion, and now He's just up there observing. He doesn't play a role day to day. That's basically what the deists thought. But by and large, these were men who knew that there was a God in heaven, and He was going to determine the outcome of this whole thing.
They actually believed the Bible too, didn't they?
They did, and they read the Bible. They read it in depth. We'll find out, Herman. We'll find out one of these days, maybe fairly soon when we get to heaven, how many of those founding fathers made it into the pearly gates. How many of them made it?
Right.
How many didn't? I'm fascinated with Thomas Jefferson. In the Jefferson Bible, remember he cut out all the miracles, and
Yes.
so he liked Jesus as a philosopher, as a self-help guru, but he didn't go along with the miracles. So that's going to be interesting. Did Thomas make the cut? So,
Well, out of the 24 chapters, who would you say really enlightened me? I didn't know that much about that person until I started studying for this book.
well, it would have to be Lafayette. I'd heard about Lafayette and the role he played. And by the way, there's a brand new book that has just come out on the life of Lafayette. But Herman, he became an American hero. And years later, he came back for his victory tour. And he was received all over this country with great enthusiasm. He was so moved by this that the people remembered him. And so today, when you hear of Lafayette, Louisiana,
That's right.
you hear of Lafayette, Indiana, and you hear of Fayetteville, Arkansas,
The French influence.
Fayetteville, North Carolina. You hear of Lafayette College up in Pennsylvania.
Wow.
That's our boy. That's our guy. That's General Lafayette from France. He's a fascinating character, and it's important to get to know him. And this new book that has just come out, you'll find it. It's in Barnes and Noble. You'll find it, but well worth studying about Lafayette. He's a really interesting character.
How did you select the females?
Well, there were a few of them, Herman, that we knew about. We did a lot of digging. We did a lot of research on who was worthy to go into this book, and we wanted to show that there was a balance.
Yes.
There were some women that were significant in this. There was an African American that was worthy, Crispus Attucks.
Yes.
It wasn't all just white males, who brought this country into existence. It was
Amen.
as they say in the South, it was a combo platter, a combination of these different men and women who pulled together and had this vision of a new nation independent of Great Britain's rule. And Herman, we had no business winning the war. The British had more of everything. They had more troops. They had more weapons. They had more clothing. They had more boots. They had everything. And we didn't.
Would you think it was supernatural?
And yes, I do. I believe that God was overseeing this whole thing. Can you imagine a world over the last 200 years without the United States of America? So people ask, how did it happen? Well, I think it was a God thing, but Herman, the British had more of everything except one thing. We had the better leaders.
Yes.
We had the better leaders, and that's why we won the war.
They had the passion like you have, that not giving up.
And they wouldn't yield, and then they were determined, determined to get this done. The British, Herman had numbers of times where they could have slaughtered our guys, particularly early in the war. The British had no business losing the war, but our leadership was better, and we had God on our side. I truly believe that he wanted a new nation here. He wanted the United States of America to come into existence, and so I encourage people: be proud of our heritage.
Amen.
Be proud to be a member of the United States, not cocky and arrogant, but just a sense of pride about our nation.
The endorsements that you have on the back, I read every one of them. I mean, you have some personalities that on the back of this and put their name on it. Phenomenal. I don't think I've ever seen any of that caliber. I mean, we got 1 minute left, but what do you do? Just pick up the phone and call them and say, I'd like to have an endorsement?
Well, I sent them a letter and with a request, and if they wanted a copy of the book, a manuscript, I would send it to them. But you're right. We had a wonderful response. Coach
Wow.
Nick Saban, Governor Mike Huckabee,
Yes.
Alan Mullally, the former CEO of Ford Motor,
Kilmeade, Brian Kilmeade from from Fox.
Fox and Friends. Brian did the forward for us, and Brian has a book that's just coming out. Brian's a significant historian.
Yes, he is.
Writes about different aspects of American history. So
we are out of time.
Okay, Herman, we always run out quickly, don't we?
But because being with you is like being with family, and it just goes so easy and so fast. This is a great book, but the one I'm holding next to it is the greatest book of all. Spend enough time to read at least 2 chapters today. Jesus Christ is your answer. Bye-bye.